Hello, everyone. Episode 44. I'm going to share some stories today and see who shows up. I'm going to have a bit of a sharing experience with others who are joining. And as people trickle in, we'll let people either share their video or not. But we're going to share some stories of our past, and this will be going live on YouTube. So, not live, sorry, this will be recorded for YouTube. So if you feel comfortable sharing, then by all means do so. And if you do not, then that's all good too. As people join, we'll keep adding them in and from there. Yeah, just wanted to offer everybody a chance that is here to be part of this incredible connection. Everyone, thanks for being here.
Hi.
So yeah, just saying we're going to be hopefully putting this on my channel. So just a heads up, if you're feeling comfortable with sharing today, that's great. And this is recorded, so just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. So a lot of you know me from my YouTube channel or from teaching magical passes and stuff. But for those of you that don't know, this is my wife, Rachel. Our daughters joined us here. Savannah Schaefer's in the room. So happy to have you.
Savannah.
And yeah, so this is just our opportunity to share. If everyone can mute their mic, keep from the feedback. And yeah, so we just wanted to offer this opportunity for others to ask questions and share their stories. And I think that's a big part of why we're doing this, is to inspire others to share anything that they want to share. We're going to spend the first bit of time going over some stuff from our past, and feel free to ask questions, raise your hand, and then we'll have some time in a bit here for if you guys want to share a little bit, or pull on some strings and see what you're interested in that we've been sharing. But yeah, we both have a unique history. We met a long time ago and started training with a pretty unique person. So we're going to start with that, but we'll let Rachel start with some guided meditation real quick, or just to ground us and get started.
Yeah, just hi, everybody. It's good to see you. Just again, I guess as you came in, it said that this is recorded, so I'm just mentioning that again. And most likely will be put onto Joel's YouTube channel, because there's been some requests for people that aren't able to show up, so wanting to see the recording and things. So yeah, it's been an intense maybe week or day, I don't know. It's been an intense day for us, so if you're feeling that way, maybe not, but it's always good to take a moment and just ground into our bodies and see if we can access some deeper relaxation. So if you want to join me, feel free to close your eyes, and if that feels good for you, and start to bring your external energy into your internal field. So deeper into the body, just starting to notice what is arising for you as we begin this process and begin this meetup together. And just feeling into your feet, wherever you're sitting, just tuning into the support that is available for us at any moment. And then noticing the breath, just taking note, not trying to change or deepen or ask anything of the breath, just allowing it to be right where it's at. Then moving your awareness to the top of your head. Just noticing how your head is feeling today in this moment. In your eyes, in your face, your jaw, the back of your neck. Just allowing it to be where it's at, and maybe sinking into a deeper relaxation around the skull. Maybe breathing into these areas and exhaling. And as we move through the body, just continuing with the breath as it's a wheel moving outwards and inwards. Seeing if we can let go and deepen just a little more with our breath, whatever that means for you. And just softening the throat. Seeing if any sighs want to come out on the exhale. And moving into the heart center. I'm just noticing what arises here for you today. Bringing breath into this area. Bringing love, compassion, and gentleness. Moving into the solar plexus. Beginning to breathe into this area, our power center. Seeing if there's any relaxation that can come from bringing attention to this area. Bringing breath, bringing a sigh. Just moving down into the gut, into the belly. Beginning to ground further into the body, into your own unique expression, what that feels like inside for you. And on your next exhale, just see if you can allow your shoulders to drop a little more, your jaw to release, and your pelvis to fall deeper towards the earth, to your support system. And really grounding into your seat and into your feet and down into the earth. Just continuing to breathe the breath as a wheel. Softening the muscles with your breath. Just remembering that the breath can travel wherever there is pain, wherever there is joy. The breath can be like magic to release and to relax in to whatever is arising for you in every moment. And coming back to the space, a meeting ground, and this technology, and when it feels right for you to blink open your eyes ever so slowly. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just, yeah, I was going to say a little bit about our intention for this call. And we're, I don't know, in our experience, we feel like releasing our story verbally has been such a help in healing. And thank you, Patty. So as we're telling our story, it's more to inspire, to hopefully help you, if it is of any help to you, to realize that each time we enter into our story, and no matter what way, if we can just slightly reorient, a reorientation allows for us to pause slightly within it, observe, be a witness to, rather than how it takes us and grabs us and brings us into that loop. It's like we can bring consciousness into our loop. And the more consciousness we have in our loops, the less looping I've found that I do. So in the sharing, yeah, it's kind of interesting, and you all can play with this if that is fun for you. But when one shares, if you notice your body can do different things at different times, so sometimes when we share, maybe we start to shake if it's something really traumatic that hasn't fully cleared, and then other times maybe we'll share the same thing, but we've touched on it, therapy or our own way, meditation or recapitulation, however one does that. And then we revisit that story and we speak it, and it's like, what's going on in my body? I'm less clenched, or there's a sigh, or there's even laughter to some of the most crazy shit that has happened to us. That's been my part of my story around my healing and my continuing to access my story, and how much it's freed me up in the now. So yeah, and we're playing with this. We have a weird story, so I'm just going to say that. prep everyone. It's been weird, and so this is just it's been hard. It's been fucking hard and painful, and so we're going to be noticing as we share what happens in our bodies. So this is just our most authentic expression, where from the place that we are now, that we can offer.
And we're definitely in a different place than we were when we met. So a lot has changed. We feel like we've lived many, many lifetimes because we've had such an intensity, concentration of like real chapters, in our lives, and studied with some very rare, unique people that were not necessarily balanced people, but very gifted people. And so Rachel's the one that introduced me to the Carlos Castaneda books, and I met her through a very powerful young sorcerer type. She had already been doing some really intense training with. So I don't know if you want to start with kind of the background before I met you, and we're kind of going to go into the beginnings of things, and maybe the next meeting we'll get into different chapters. We'll see how this unfolds. But when I met you, you had already been doing some power training courses and things like that. That is kind of an interesting backdrop to how we all got into this work.
Yeah, where to start there? Yeah, okay, so I met this person in high school, in an alternative high school in the Pacific Northwest, and yeah, there was some pretty big, significant magnetism that happened. And I don't know how much of that was, say, like the universe or his intent, but he was an artist and he drew, like a symbol of the devil and the angel. And I like walked basically into that art. And he was like, this is us. And that's how we began a relationship. And at the time we were having really similar dreams about the world, and it felt like prophecy at the time, like, the San Andreas fault was going to fall into the earth. We kept having similar dreams about earth changes or what would happen to society. And very much of what we were dreaming has happened in the last 2 years, not the earthquake and the land falling into the ocean, but different things about what we were seeing that was possible in our dreams that we felt was going to happen. And so that set the stage for this very intense bonding, because where we were at, there was no one, there was no internet, there was no, we weren't connecting with other like-minded people. So it was just very much us. And I think we spent about 8 years in that space together. Oh, let's see, that was a few years before Joel came into the picture. So yeah, was it 2? Yeah, just a 2-year period. There was a lot. I don't know exactly what I'd like to say about that. There was a lot there. There's a lot to be said. My experience of that felt very like a lot of emotional abuse, spiritual abuse, and like just a lot of power over and trying to change, using like Carlos Castaneda books to try and change me. And I think that there was some really great intention in there somewhere. And I learned a lot from that experience. But the beginning, really, when we were introduced to the Carlos Castaneda books, was when we were in my first cult called the Power Trainers, or was it the Power Training? A woman from Canada named Faye. She's still, I think they're still going on. We were doing past life regression, crystal work, card, I don't know what kind of card reading. Everyone was kind of doing a little bit of different things, but we were doing really intense past life regression where we were being trained to bring people into their past life and bring them out and do a healing at the same time, and while reading Carlos Castaneda books and while doing specific meditations where we go into it wasn't called this, but back then it was described, but not called the Akashic Records. But that's pretty much what we were doing, going to the Book of Knowledge. And yeah, lots of different things. And I'd say my background that led me kind of into this mysteriousness. I mean, I laugh about it and I think of how we were doing, I think it was like 4th grade or something, you know, girls' slumber parties where we're like doing light as a feather, stiff as a board, which always worked and was scary. You know, we were doing past life regression and people would get stuck and parents were called. And, you know, some may see that as like, you know, black magic. I definitely got into magic, but we were always called the White Witches, you know. So I played with Ouija boards but we're tapping into souls that were lost. And then as soon as ones that weren't welcome, there was always a lot to deal with. And, you know, Ouija boards were flying across the counter and it was very real to me. And I've had some real experiences with people that have crossed, that have come into my field. And I'm really not an expert at that. I've dabbled in, well, I shut the door on all that when I had my children because I was being bombarded by spirits and I didn't know what to do with all that. So now I'm just in a process of like opening that door ever so slightly and seeing kind of what's there for me. So then one day, I mean, yeah, I'll just touch in that I did have a child with that person and we ended up giving it up for adoption. And there's a lot of story around that, but I think that I'll touch on that maybe at another time. So it was about a few months after I gave Zach up for adoption that to a beautiful family that I met Joel. And yeah, he knocked on the door of this, I guess we'd call him the young sorcerer's house. We were staying at his parents' house at the time. I was 20 and Joel was 16.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had always seen this person. I grew up near him and he was always super intense and kind of, everyone called him sort of an alien guy or non-human because he was just really fearless physically and pretty angry, always trying to fight people that were much bigger than him and very, very extreme in every sense, very gifted at sort of making things happen. So he was being offered a chance to be a professional skateboarder but didn't want his photo taken because different reasons and stuff. So he turned a lot of things down that could have made him really famous. And so he was very focused on pretty dark stuff in the beginning. And so by the time I met him, he had supposedly come out of the dark stuff and had discovered Carlos Castaneda books and was using them as a means to sort of start what we called like a Jimmy rigged sorcerer party. Because in the Toltec, if you read Castaneda books, they have what they call sorcerer parties, where you get a certain amount of people in order to achieve certain results. And so Rachel handed me the first book and I was very fascinated and read them while training with him and her. Most of our training was in the wilderness facing our physical fears. So we would be walking fallen tree logs that went over canyons, get out in the middle there and you're shaking so much that you think you're going to fall off and you have to hold on, like get down on your belly and hold on. And, then you're out in the middle and you don't know if you should go back or go forward. And he's sort of just coaxing you to face your fears all the time. And we were jumping out of trees that we shouldn't have been, like heights that we shouldn't have been jumping out of.
25 feet.
So it's a lot of martial art training involved.
Kind of like, I think, forest parkour.
Yeah,
That's what
back in the day, before parkour.
was a thing.
But
But
it
for
was
spiritual purposes.
it was very effective at reaching the place of no pity, at least for me at certain points. And that's a term from the Carlos Castaneda books. It's a place where you sort of have to gather all your resources and kind of quit thinking and just act. So really effective means to alter your perception. We would spend a lot of time in the dark at night in the wilderness and practice gazing, observing the shadows in the moonlight, and in the daytime as well. Gazing is a really powerful practice that they teach in the books as well. This man was really good at it, and he taught me how to draw the light into my eyes, whether it's moonlight or sunlight, and solar or lunar gazing. When you do this enough, you reach very unique altered states, and you start to gather more and more energy. And so his focus was that our youthful energy is going to be quickly taken from us if we don't take care of it. And so there was a lot of pressure not to get seduced by the world and all of its entrapment. And so I was basically told I had to leave all my friends, and eventually leave my parents, because that was kind of what Carlos Castaneda did as well. And so we had no reason to be following these, to be trying to be like somebody else, but that's what we were doing, or at least I was. And so a lot of intensity in the forest, and when you're in the forest like that, it really changes you. When you spend concentrated amounts of time, it's forest bathing, basically. You're just saturating yourself, and you're breaking away from society, and you're getting a break from the standard perception that most people live in. And so it was a really hard to not, it was very something I wanted to do. I was very thankful for. And he was, in the books, they also talk about saving sexual energy. And so he was very much focused on celibacy at the time. And I later learned from yoginis and other masters of things that celibacy can backfire on you. You can save a lot of sexual energy, but if you haven't processed certain aspects of your heart space, then you're saving that energy for power rather than to really heal. And that can turn into schizophrenia.
And from deep repression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a cult in which, we felt he was basically saying, look, if you don't change quickly, you're going to be left behind. I'm not going to tolerate people that aren't fully committed. And so we were very wanting to be part of this. He was very funny and very capable of moving our perception. And so we were losing our social mask and really looking to him to sort of help us through that process. And he did have some profound things to help us with, but he was also, looking back on it, it was his drive was I believe out of fear, that he was trying to avoid some aspect of himself, almost like he was on a timeline, that his soul was tormented in some way, and that he had to achieve certain results in this lifetime in order to resolve some sort of karmic issue. And I that's my insight on it, but it may or may not be the case.
And he just was extremely different person.
Yeah.
Like not of his family of origin.
Yeah.
So some people you can kind of tell they were born from, and they had this kind of family, and that, I mean, not everyone, but he was extremely different from his family. And he was extremely violent, like volatile. And I think that was really hard for his family to manage, as well as for us. He would swing in extremes, and we would swing with him, because out of all of our cult experiences, the person in power was always going to tell you that your connection depended on theirs, like to God or the universe. It was spirit. It was, I can't remember. Yeah, spirit. That we weren't like there yet. And so that's why they were in our lives, was to help us get there in using their connection. And so it was, oh, we're always handing our power over, to another. And that's what we were doing with him. And so when he would swing and have his definition of why, he would go deep into his rage and skateboarding and like drinking and smoking marijuana. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that's what we're doing now. And so we'd follow that and kind of be gritty and be in the city. And because some of it was deep in Seattle, we were on the streets playing there. And then we would get, real pure and purify our body and eat really well and get colonics. And, we were with another woman that was like a yogini, a nutritionist, a colon therapist, like all the things. We were living with her for a while. So we'd go into that mode. And then there was this hierarchy within the group. So that he would establish at different times, different days, oh, well, you've got more power, so you're the one. You're going to be the Nawal woman. And so women would come, and it's like, oh, then I'd be pushed down, and it's like, oh, you'll never be her. You're not powerful enough. And then, I was left a lot, like straight abandonment. Like all of a sudden he'd be gone for months. That happened while I was pregnant and living at his home with his parents. And so there was just constant fight or flight. I just learned in those times to live in my sympathetic nervous system, which is fight, flight, freeze, fawn, all the things. And took me probably up until 5 years ago to really learn how to drop into my parasympathetic. So my health got really rocked along the way. But I learned so much from those extreme swings that he created within himself, at times. Well, I don't want to jump ahead to Montana, but where are we?
Yeah, I mean, when we were in the Seattle area, I think I was being used a lot. I knew a lot of people, and so I was being used to recruit other people into this world. And some really amazing people that I had met came to hang out with us, and it was quite, you kind of, when you hang out with us or with him, you kind of getting the carpet pulled out from under you, because there's a new operating system you're being introduced to, and you're being taken out of a certain level of hypnosis and basically being put into a different type of hypnosis. And I talk a lot about hypnosis in my videos. And so, yeah, really, really good friends that I kind of wish I hadn't introduced, but also at the same time, I don't regret and believe that everything has its place under the sun. And so, yeah, some really amazing adventures. We would travel together in cars, multiple cars sometimes, to places of power in the US. Lots of adventuring and go to raves and different things. And
where we were utilizing like the practices of controlled folly and stalking, dreaming, just everything would be incorporated into it, except for that it was just really unhinged. It was mostly, well, speaking for myself, there was so much shame that in not being good enough, in trying to be somebody I wasn't. There was just so much trying in my experience. It was just try, because it was just quite not, it wasn't enough. And the love and the connection and the bond that we had would be taken away if you weren't, showing that you were had certain amount of skills. This is pretty common, I think, in
like
most cults.
celibacy was a big thing, and if you weren't taking care of your sexual energy, he would call you out on it and say, look, I can tell, or I'm psychic and can kind of see this stuff. And so it was really difficult thing to go through. But at the same time, at 17 years old, I didn't have a single sexual thought for over a year. And that's a pretty rare thing, but it was because I was so focused on the Castaneda books, and I was so interested in the potential of what, and I was hanging out with this other kid who we'd brought into the mix, and he was very pure. He had been raised macrobiotically and had a really unique life. And so he was able to also be in sort of that pure state. And so we just snowboarded and did a lot of amazing things together while keeping a very different perspective from most 17-year-old boys or young men. And that's proven to be a really unique thing to have had happen to me at that age. So it's a totally dynamic blueprint. Things like this, you're really at a young age saving youthful energy, reclaiming, practicing the recapitulation, which I talk a lot about, is going back into your memories and recollecting the energy you left behind and releasing the energy that you took on from others. And when you start that process at a young age, it's pretty tremendous. There's gates of dreaming that you can learn to pass once you learn how to maintain silence as you're going in the in-between states between awake and asleep. And then there's something called dreaming awake that you can learn about from reading Florinda Donner Grau's book, Being and Dreaming. And so, these things, we were reading these books over and over and over as if they were a manual. And I believe they are a manual, that they were designed that way. And so really, really dynamic thing to learn about. But so eventually we kind of, the test of all tests was we were going to put backpacks on and go to basically go to the Rocky Mountains, or we didn't know for sure, but we were going to leave our hometown. And
well, we were following our dreams that everything, that society was going to break, and the earth changes would begin. We didn't call them earth changes back then. That was the second cult. But we were moving as far east as we could to prevent, just to leave, to break ties with our parents, to never see them again. It was part of our interpretation of one of the books, I think, Journey to Ixtlan.
I mean, that was brought up a lot in a lot of different books, but Journey to Ixtlan was a very key book to learning how to escape the phantom world. That we live in a vision, that we live in a dream reality, and that to become real in this world, you have to cut ties with the program. And therefore, anyone that is programmed is basically a phantom that's holding you back from exiting the phantom world. So it was quite the concept for a 16-year-old to at the time, 17, I guess, when we left. But So we put on backpacks to leave our hometown, never to return.
To exit the whole social conditioned world,
Yeah.
which we had become not a part of already. We had been treating our parents like what we called ruthlessly, cutting them off, being cold, to save our energy, to not exchange energy with the cashier at the store. We were doing all these extreme practices to cut ourselves off from the world.
Which was a misinterpretation of the books. The books are very powerful and beautiful, and Carlos Castaneda was in his unique situation, and his teacher, Juan Matus, was giving him personal guidance on how to become free after he had been trained for many, many years. And so here we have this young man interpreting these books and then projecting his interpretation onto us. And so this is not a representation of, a balanced process in the shamanic arts. There is the benefit of doing these things at a certain stage in your life if you are somebody that isn't able to detach from how others see you. So the benefit of learning it's called removing your social mask. It's a very uncomfortable, intense thing to do, but it's a very real thing that you can achieve without it being in a helter-skelter way. So we were doing all these extreme things that we weren't really capable of doing in our heart, in our mind, even and with our bodies. So we were literally put on 85 pounds because we were going to carry every single item we would need to live in the wilderness. So we're breaking our body just to get to the wilderness. And but we exited, the three of us with our
Four.
There's four, but one of
beginning.
them didn't get on the train, so we hopped a train.
Yeah. I mean, I'm talking about these processes, but just to kind of tap in more to what was happening to my body and my emotions is I was losing it. I fought it because it didn't feel right. It wasn't, it was going against my nature, and I knew that. And I didn't know how to get out of the trap of what I had gotten myself into, what I was kept saying yes to. I didn't understand how much choice I actually had. So it was very much a mind fuck that I created. I mean, it was also with the help of other, but it was definitely a trap that I could get out of. So I believed that I just had to do all this because to save my mind, to save myself, because I didn't have a place in society. I really didn't feel like I belonged to this world. I was so different than everyone else, and I didn't want to go to college or get good. I never got good grades, so there was all this stuff that was happening within me while this was going on. So, I mean, jumping out of trees, all that was just so many tears and so much anger and so much joy and elation when I accomplished one of these feats. It was like, oh my gosh, I literally flew out of a tree. I remember when I jumped and I was like, I am flying, and I could feel what it felt like to fly. So just this like extreme nature of like heaven and hell always. And so in our escape from society, I put on, an 85-pound backpack, and I was like 105. So my ankles were giving out, my legs were shaking as we were walking the train tracks out of our hometown of Kirkland. And yeah, and some of you know parts of this story because I did share some of it.
Yeah, getting on the train was pretty intense. And
well, we ended up walking to then a bus that we met a rail rider or
train master
that was a rail rider, and he taught us how to jump trains and how to survive and what to do and what not to do.
he
And there
told
was
us,
4 of us.
yeah,
Yeah,
he told
just
us where to go, and he went with us and told us this train was going to go to where we wanted to go, and which it didn't, but we
It's
did
the
get
garbage
we did get
train.
on the train, and one of our friends didn't make it because it was very difficult with that much weight to step onto a moving train. So we had the opportunity to get on this train, and then all of a sudden it started moving. And so it's going pretty slow, but fast enough that with an 85-pound pack, it was pretty much, to everything to figure out how to do that. And he was able to help. But at the same time, not all of us got on and
Yeah, so I panicked. It was like that feeling of like, somebody's not going to get on this train, and so I just kind of knew if I didn't say I'm going first, I was not getting on this train. So I yelled out, I'm getting on, I'm doing it, which wasn't like me. And so I went, and sure enough, I jumped on just fine, felt so good. And then I couldn't pull because of the centrifugal force, or what is that? My body was being pulled back as we were going along, and it wasn't going that fast. But even though I had framed houses, I was a kickboxer, I could do 100 push-ups or something, right? Like I was stout. For me, I could not hold on for my life. And so I started to slip back, and all my fingers just released, and I fell back, and I kind of swooped slightly underneath the train. And there were my knees I was stuck under the train because my pack was so heavy, and I was trying to move my body with my pack, and my knees got hit by chains. I have like scars from that. And I realized I pushed myself. I saw this part of the train coming, and I realized I'm going to die if I don't get out from under this train. So I pushed myself back, unbuckled, and got up and just proceeded to start beating the shit out of my backpack. Just so angry, knowing that I didn't make it. And then all of a sudden I hear the train master yell out something like, "Give me your pack." And that was the miracle, where at the same time, like how I heard that, I looked up, I grabbed this 85-pound backpack, hoisted it up to him. He grabbed it and grabbed my hand all at the same time. And I got on the train, and we bonded, that trail master and me. I gave him one of my sacred blankets, and we had a great night on that train. It was really powerful. It kind of haunted me for the rest of my life. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a trip. It was very powerful thing. I'm not sure how, I don't remember how I managed to get up. I remember looking back and seeing that I think I just held onto the ladder until somebody came and helped me. Because it was the same thing when I wasn't built to be trying to pull off what I did, but or what we were trying to do. So, but I remember seeing that my friend didn't make it, and it was just like so intense. I was torn to go with the shaman or jump off the train, and that kind of plagued me for the whole trip, which ended up being a really long, powerful, life-changing adventure. And I remember sleeping on the train. Like I was laying on my back, and Rachel was sleeping on one side, and this young shaman was sleeping on the other side of my shoulder. And we just stayed the night. We slept through the night that way, and it was raining on us, but we had all the expensive Gore-Tex stuff because Rachel had burned a credit card up for all of us to have all the best gear.
$10,000 at REI before we left society.
So we had we had some good stuff. But we ended up getting stuck in Vancouver, Washington.
Which is where I grew up.
Yeah. So the train was supposed to go to Montana. We're supposed to go down south, turn and go north, and so we're waiting for this to happen, and it's just staying in Vancouver, and we're like, cooking rice cereal, a camp stove on the back of this train, and the train police come and say, what the, like we had
Fuck
full
off.
on knives sticking out of our pants, like machetes and stuff. And they're just, you're out of here. And we're lucky we didn't get arrested. But we managed to hitchhike to a Greyhound station, when with what little money we had, we caught a bus to the Dalles. And I remember sleeping the first night, and we managed to find a little spot off the side of the road, and in some bushes and the thicket. And we proceeded to hitchhike to Montana, which was really powerful. We didn't know where we were going.
We ended up in Walla Walla first.
Oh yeah, sorry.
We had a little spell in Walla Walla.
Yeah, we were able to, we're staying at a park. I think stayed a couple nights at a park, and we weren't getting in trouble. And then we met a family who they were kind of people that like to help. They were always AA people, and always, offering services to homeless people and things. And they took us in, and we stayed in their trailer in their home, and we were able to make some money. He let us help him pour a patio, and we went and got food stamps and things. And I think we were still smoking weed at the time. And so the young sorcerer is like, we have to smoke all this weed, so otherwise it's never going to work, because we have to be sober. So we're just smoking all this weed, trying to get rid of it so that we can go on further on our adventure. And there was a one-armed man that lived with these people, who was a heroin addict, and he used his stub to shoot heroin into. And we were just having really interesting experiences in Walla Walla. And finally, the young man said, okay, we've smoked all our weed, we can finally go. And we went out on the highway, and a family picked us up and took us to their home. The adventure just continued with more and more hitchhiking, and eventually
then someone took us straight
into the mountains.
We were in a sports car, I remember, just packed in with our backpacks, and took us from not too far outside of Walla Walla all the way to Butte, Montana, more central, and where we got on to where we wanted to go, which was the Continental Divide Trail. It was about, I think, the same year as Wild, as what's her name? If you've seen that movie, it's part of it, her Monster Pack. But I just thought that was funny. She was on the Pacific Crest Trail. We were on the Continental Divide Trail, doing very different things, but both managing very big, monster-sized backpacks.
So this was really intense, to be out in the wilderness with him, and having him be the guide to get us, because we weren't just on a normal trail all the time. We were taking shortcuts based on his intuition. So there was times where we were on trails that were just barely trails at all.
And then no trails. We just go over this mountain, and so there was just so much trust and not knowing.
Yeah. And meanwhile, he's kind of playing Don Juan, giving us tests, like, can you find your power spot? I know where you need to be tonight. Do you know where it is? And if you've read the Castaneda books, that's one of the first tests that Don Juan gives to Carlos, to see if he is going to teach him about peyote. But this was quite different. And I was always rebelling. I just, no, I'm not going to even do it, and it got to the point after quite a while where I felt I was being pushed out, unwanted. And I really was never wanted in the entire experience. So I was sort of always being used. And it kind of hit ahead, and I decided that I was going to exit and go and find my friend that had not made it. and then I would try to maybe regroup or bring him along and try to find um, Rachel and this man later, which we did, which is crazy. But yeah, so when I left, um, I hitchhiked all the way by myself with nothing, no money. I'd run out of food.
So do you mind if I
No,
just
yeah,
fill
please.
that in? Yeah, I mean, there was always some emotional shit going down, and I can't remember the details. I'm sure Joel does, but there was something that had happened one day, and it was like Joel wasn't really doing it right, that kind of a thing. And so Joel decided to go back. It was just really heavy because I was, traveling with these two, and then it was gonna not, yeah. I mean, he was such a key companion in my adventure of kind of silently supporting me, just because we're following this person. And there was such significant moments while we were in the mountains where and to this day, I don't know exactly what had happened to me, but just a huge amount of stress and was put on me to perform or do some sort of thing or act or be in this way. And I emotionally reacted. And we'd been in the mountains for so long that, you become really changed. I had, my hair was down to my ass, and I just, had him cut it up to my ears and threw it into the fire. And, I'd been going through all these different kind of rituals, or just letting go more and more of who I was. And at one point, I don't know exactly what had happened, but I was left because I was reacting emotionally. And Joel and this person, just said goodbye, like, we're leaving you out here. And they completely left. And I felt this whole energy, amoeba, like felt and saw this thing just overtake my body and like come up. And it was almost like the movies where you can just see it starting to eat you up and overtake me. I don't know what that was, if that was, a psychotic break, or what kind of how I opened to some energy form that, there's many different ways to speak about it. I don't have really strong beliefs one way or the other, because it was a feeling and an experience, and I don't necessarily like to define all of that. But it was one of the most intense things where I felt like I was absolutely dying and being overtaken. And about this time, this young sorcerer swooped in, saw it was happening, and like pulled me up and out of it. And kind of I came to, and it went away. But it was those things that were happening like over and over, just being this abandonment, and then like the saving and the need to be saved because of what I was exposing myself to. So for Joel to make the choice to leave was really hard for me. So we had like pretty intense goodbye, just to be in the middle of the mountains and have this person just leaving and not know where. Don't know. I don't think he knew where he was going or how to get out. I don't know. I think we just saw.
I found out, I could see that there was a highway pretty far
That's
out
right.
that I could get to and hitchhike. And I was very lucky with hitchhiking. I had already had some experience with it. But it was crazy. People would pull over and like, they say, I've never picked up a hitchhiker in my life. My car literally pulled over. Like I didn't even pull over, so I learned a lot about how when you don't have any other options, that windows of opportunity happen when there's literally, when your life is on the line, as if we are in a simulation or some of sorts, that things are meant to be, and that doors open when and if you put yourself in a situation of that nature. And so being alone was actually really liberating, because I started to really gain my own relationship with these types of what we called power. So it was all about gaining personal power, and how much personal power do you have? And one of the things in the books it says is it's not about how much personal power you have, it's how much you trust it. And so I did trust a lot. I had a lot of trust. I had a lot of sort of almost blind faith in things. And so I was able to safely get back to Seattle eventually, where I was able to find my friend who had left. So we ended up getting back on the road, hitchhiking back to Montana, and we were literally walking around Missoula, and we could feel them there. We knew they were there because by then they had gotten to Missoula.
So, yeah.
But we never found them. We were standing outside of their door, out of their apartment, and we could feel them. But even though they were there, we never ran into them. So we ended up going back to Seattle and then trying again. And then we found them the second time. But that was a whole different, all kinds of stories happened with me and that guy, which I shared a little bit in one of my videos about. We had some people show up to give us help that weren't going to help us, that were there to take our energy. And there's a lot of things in this world when you're out on the highway. You meet some golem-like creatures and some people that are too good to be true, that if you're not careful and you're not aware of the underlying intent, that you can get into a lot worse situations than had you just, not had any helpers. So, and then there's also lots of real beautiful aligned guided helping that showed up from random strangers, and real close calls where we were being hunted by truckers that wanted to get us drunk, and just things that were pretty scary. Some events that we escaped by kind of very, very slightly escaped. But yeah, you ended up with a whole nother journey to get to Missoula. And
yeah.
but,
So then we said goodbye to Joel, and then we were on the trail that a good chunk of that summer, and we decided to come off the mountain, and I can't remember exactly why, actually. To replenish, because we weren't hunting, or we were carrying all our food, just lentils and rice and things, instant food. And so we were just trying to go back to a town to replenish. And I was just done for the day, and I had given up. And this person was like, we're going to keep going all day. It was midday, and my body was just giving out. And then all of a sudden, all these ATV riders come circle up, and they say, hey, do you need a ride? And so we hitched a ride in the deep, deep forest from ATVs that could carry all of us and our gear, which was amazing. So where we came down, so we started, I believe, in Butte, Montana. I still don't know exactly. I'm here, so I'll find out. But I think it was in Butte, Montana, where we started and made it through the Continental Divide to Missoula. And I still don't know where we popped out, so I'm going to find that as well. But yeah, so then our experience there, we walked into town, and the first thing we did was, in Missoula in those days, you could get a burger and a beer for $1. So we had been like vegan, nothing. And I remember, but we were just so hungry and just decided to do that. And I remember going into the bathroom, and there was a mirror, and it was the first time I saw myself in so long. And I had cut my hair, but never had seen it. And so I didn't recognize myself. And it started to wear on my psyche, like losing the mask in this way. It just wasn't a healthy thing for me to do. It wasn't it was a very more of a dangerous path to do it in the way that it was happening. And so we ended up living on the streets for quite a while, and was just selling our gear to make money for food. And I was trying to sign up for food stamps or whatever, fill out forms, and I had like forgotten my name, my social security. So I was starting to really have some psychotic breaks around having left myself so much, my persona and all those things that from the conditioned world. And I didn't know that until I tried to come back into society. So I was starting to go into shock, into a lot of emotional release and dysregulation. And then eventually we found some people decided to take us in and let us camp in their yard. We later became really good friends with and traveled to South Dakota with them, and met their family on a Great Spirit Lodge. It was an incredible story as well. But yeah, then started to get our bearings and found a place to live. And I applied for this job that was a coffee shop. They wanted someone to just come and take it over. And so I went into that interview with like a cowgirl hat on and like boots, and I was just off the trail. Like I looked wildly, and that is exactly what they wanted. So it was very bizarre. I was mentally unstable. I was dressed really strangely, probably still a little dirty. Did not know hardly my name, but I knew that I knew coffee because I was trained in Seattle. So I aced this job. I was basically the owner when the owners were gone, and we just had this beautiful relationship, and they're from Missouri. Yeah, so I just really started to stabilize in the work that I had, because it was where I was meant to be. And it gave me all this freedom. I was supporting myself. I was supporting others to live in this, studio, this old building in Missoula. And there was so much freedom to it, even though, I could party till the sun came up. And so we were like in the bars and drinking, like it just got wild. And I would still open that coffee shop every morning at like 5:50 and be there for everyone for their coffee. So I went from such a different place to like being in society. And yeah, it was an incredible time to reflect on, is how does one get grounded, and how does one stalk the work environment when you're in that place mentally, when you've extracted yourself, or you can see the world in this really alternative way. How do you re-enter? So I've spent some time looking at that. But yeah, and then our people from the trail started to show up, and Joel and I began a love affair. we started to reject some of our training, and we're sneaking and eating sugar and making love,
breaking the rules
behind people's back. And it got very conflicting. The good, we were being bad and we needed to be good. And so we had this beginning of our relationship was really tumultuous, because we didn't, we just had such strong motivation to follow this Carlos path that was, inverted. And but we didn't know. It just felt like the only way, or we would die, or that's how I felt. I just felt like there was no other option, just death, or to do this path. So to have a relationship with him meant death to me, very literally. And if not death, insanity.
Yeah, it was a lot of yeah, just such an intense way to perceive the world, and it's very impossible to sort of uphold the kind of disciplines that we were expected of us. And when the person we were following would break his disciplines, then we were allowed to, but when he wasn't, then we weren't allowed to. So it was psychotic, and it's yeah, I ended up, we lived in a very small place together, the three of us, and sometimes others would come and stay as well, but it was just literally just one room or two rooms. But
there was hippies, there were strippers, there was
yeah, it was very,
all kinds were welcome, and for a moment, but then we'd kick them out
yeah,
if it got too
there was
undone.
the most I think impactful was these mountain men, and really powerful mountain men that lived in the mountains, and
Still
they're probably still out there,
do
but
around here.
they called themselves white Indians, and because they really did live off the land, and they would go into town and get the free meals and go to Bible. They were really into the Bible, and they were into alcoholism, and but really schizophrenic people. And I had always, since I was 13, been following schizophrenic people to learn about how to expand my perception. I was always fascinated with people that were fearless. So prior to this guy, I trained sort of with somebody who was very gifted at using psychedelics in a very particular way, but also, I kept him out of juvie, and he kind of kept me entertained, and we had lots of adventures. So being with these mountain men was similar to that, like kind of sketchy, dangerous. We'd go out to their tent and where they lived, and the way the person we were following would fuck with them, and then the way they would fuck with him, and we kind of get into these arguments, and it was real hardcore. Like there was some nights where I thought, we're all gonna die. Like there was guns and knives,
big
and
big knives,
lots of alcohol, and you were drinking brain broth out of
well,
all kinds of cool things as well. But
that was a story worth saying. For sure, there was this impact that it wasn't always, schizophrenia. I don't know, but there was just a moment in time, well, many moments, I believe, where there was so much peace and silence from Mountain Man Jim, who's called. He would go, you can just, in Missoula, you can just walk up into the mountains, and he would hunt elk. And he had his own structure that was kind of in between the mountains and the city. And one time he had a fresh kill, and he invited this young sorcerer and me out to his camp. And it was a time of such pure silence. Like it was such a impactful, beautiful time in my life, where I was being gifted. I've had times when I've been vegan and been a carnivore, and there's different feelings around that. But this was his gift, and his expression of life was to honor this animal and be one with it in this way. And so he was teaching me and this other man how to take this in. And so he was doing his ritual with it, which wasn't native, or I don't know where it came from, but it was just his. And it took all night, and it was just observing him. And I spent, I was given, a broth made of, brains and a mixture of things. It was like doing power plants for me. Got very altered. At that time, I was a carnivore. So I accepted it. And then, I did dreaming on this bearskin rug and stayed there all night. And it was just really quite powerful. I mean, there was other details to it, but I think I'll just leave it at that. It was very beautiful. And there was, no schizophrenia in sight.
Yeah.
Just honoring and power, and like entering the mystery, because I had no idea what this was a structure made of probably willow and kind of like a sweat lodge with just skins of animals. And so it was very much going back to the land, and which is some of my roots, some native roots.
Yeah, and from the Toltec's perspective, consuming the animal is power food. So shamans will be guided to use power meat, and a shaman will imbue the power meat for his student. And especially if you're in the evolved, or if you're ready, you will a deer or an elk will come to you, and it will sacrifice itself for you to kill it, so that meat can merge with your power. And then you make that jerky, and you take that energy with you into the mountains. And it is beyond psychedelics. It is pure power. So this world has, different people, different perspectives on these things, but from that perspective, it's considered very balanced, very necessary in order to achieve certain journeys. So you'll read about that if you read the Carlos Castaneda books. And there's a lot to that, and I've experienced that in other ways, not as dynamic as Rachel's story, but it's truly something to consider and understand or whatnot. But yeah, these and schizophrenic people are not always, extreme. They're, like she was saying, they can be so lucid in such a beautiful way. There's a lot of fearlessness often that allows them to just be so in the moment. And when you're around people that can be in the moment, it helps you to be in the moment. And to truly be in the moment is to be eternal, to be timeless, and to have an eternal moment is what changes us. And so there's a lot to be said for, expanding our perception of labels of what we consider people to be. And there's functional schizophrenia, which I think the person we were following was, and later when we get to the next story at the next session, which we won't do today because we're going to open it up for questions now. Schizophrenia is a real, one of my teachers, Carol Tiggs, who is in the Castaneda books, who is the Nawal woman. She was asking me about my teachers, and I said, yeah, they were all schizophrenic. She said, all shamans are schizophrenic. So it's coming to terms with that and accepting that when you do remove your social mask totally, you go through a period of insanity, but you trust that your perception will move you to the most natural guided space eventually. It's not something to do in a dangerous helter-skelter way like we did, but if you read the books, having read them over and over now and gotten out of the interpretation of others, I'm able to understand that we're all insane. Anyone that thinks they're sane is insane, right? Because there's no way sane. It's we are all under hypnosis, various kinds, and to come out of hypnosis is almost impossible. And yet I believe there's nothing else to do. because to liberate yourself from the program is to fully be alive, because the program is what reduces us to, basically being fed off by forces that are unseen. And it's a very, that's a very extreme perspective, and it's not something I'm putting onto others. But if in the world of shamanic training, that's taught and integrated so that one, and it's because you want to be very conscious of where you're at and not pretend you're further along or that you've achieved certain things. People often say, why do you say you're a student of shamans? Why don't you say you're a shaman? I'm like, my teachers could dream circles around me. These people had done all kinds of incredible things, and some of them were raised that way since birth. And so I've still yet to be able to do the things 25 years later that this young shaman was doing when he was 20. So we're all different. We're all capable in different ways. And I don't push or suggest people be shamanic or become shamans or even do shamanic training.
Remove your social mask all the way.
Yeah, I'm not. The reason I share is to warn people about getting involved with shamans, about what power plants can do to you. A lot of my friends are taking ayahuasca and they just can't stop because they don't want to face and integrate what they've learned, and so they are caught in that relationship with that plant, and that plant keeps demanding that they return, or at least according to them, they're no longer kind of have their own say, that they've entered a world of power and that power selects. And I believe that we have a free will, even though we're caught in a reality tunnel, a holographic projected reality that the majority of humanity is engaged in, that we can create our own, and that's what we're here to do. And that the more of us that do that, the more we can unbind from these intense Toltec things, and we can be of our own channeled, guided, beautiful, holistic, healthy being, which I believe is possible, very much so. And I would call that sanity. I believe that we, even though we are insane, that we can eventually ground and find a balanced way of living, and hopefully in doing so, others can benefit from these stories and these concepts. And so if anybody's interested in good.
I just wanted to say, like, that being said, like, I don't carry that same belief system, and so we're not promoting like that's how his interpretation of the world and his experiences are. And even though we've shared most of our life together, and we have a very different view.
Yeah.
And so that view is not the view of me of what I have. But I think you got to it, which is to say that we all have our own view. And that's what we are promoting, to say, hey, this is our view, but what's yours? And so
and we were caught in trying to be like somebody instead of trying to discover who we were
and adopt someone else's view.
Right. And so everybody, it tends to think of, it's hard to break free of that and not look up to others, put people on pedestals, whether it's Carlos Castaneda, Don Juan, or yoginis, or different people who have achieved supposed enlightenment. Being really honest with what your true feelings, your heart, finding a path of heart for yourself. That's what I appreciate about the books, is that they talk about finding a path of heart and walking it, and enjoying it, because it's the journey. It's not about where you're gonna get to. It's about really embodying the experience of the journey and accepting yourself.
Yeah, know your heart as you take your steps through your path.
And most people who are into that kind of stuff, they get out of their heart and they get into their power, and it's hard to help. I work with a lot of people, a lot of powerful, like, women that are gifted dreamers, but somehow they struggle with staying in their heart space because they're interpreting from these books something that isn't necessarily what the books are saying. So,
I think one of the most profound things that I've found over the last 5 years is shadow work. And so, and what does that mean? You know, that is the integration process of the conditioned world and moving. So you don't have to leave society. Like shadow work is all here. It's in the collective. So there's nothing to actually leave. And so it's really profound once you turn towards yourself, you turn towards death, because we are all dying and living every day. Like we're decaying, we're moving towards death, and we are running from it. And so it really separates ourselves from our actual life. And the more that we can turn towards that shadow and the darkness and death, the more life comes and can be lived. That's been my experience. And so, yeah, that's how I believe people get caught in the traps of power itself, like individual power, and taking responsibility for that power is that's what I believe I'm here on this planet to talk about and to assist and bridge people, because that's when we start wielding power that's outside of us. Because when we've grounded into the shadow of ourselves, then there's no need to misuse. So yeah, we that's been our experience. And what's your view? That's what I want to say.
yeah, if anyone wants to comment or ask questions, by all means, no pressure though.
Feel free to jump in, share your stories, or that was a lot. I feel like.
And Nancy commented that she did the training with Faye.
Oh my goodness.
And that it was, she saw it was quite dark. So thank you, Nancy, for sharing. That's what a small world. And
whoa, it is a small world. Holy cow. I've never known anyone who's known about it. Well, just one other person, but not through the training. So that's that's something to maybe chat about later even.
Yeah.
Thanks, Carol.
Yeah. So if nobody has anything, we can share a little bit more, but if anyone wants to ask any questions about the magical passes or anything around Carlos Castaneda or our story, or if you want to share yours, it's all good, all welcome.
We can just take a moment, take a few breaths, because I feel a little out of breath from sharing all of that. Ooh. Yeah, Savannah's got it. Drink some water.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I didn't train with Faye. I was in a meeting with her, didn't care for her vibe at all, felt culty. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we were, I remember being at the co-op in Kirkland, and everybody would come in and talk about what level they were at in this training. So there was quite a few people that we knew just through our association with one of the people that followed or was associated with this young sorcerer's mother. She was a masseuse.
She's the yogini I was
masseuse yogini lady that really helped me. Best massage probably I've ever got in my life. I wish I could work with her, but we all get on different paths. So yeah, this was really a powerful time. We skipped ahead of a lot of stuff. There was a lot of things that just happened within Kirkland. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Patty. Appreciate your comments, and I'm glad you could be here, and glad that we were able to share this. And we did go cover some of the core pieces, but I mean, we spent so much time in Kirkland doing such intense stuff. And we were
It was 8 years. Well,
8 for you, 6 for
yeah.
me.
So many years just living in the forest for the
Yeah.
most part.
Yeah. And, you know, we would explore all kinds of ranges of intensities, because based on what this person was into, we would be swayed in different directions, and we learned a lot.
Yeah. So we'll get in the future probably. I have a feeling that we'll be just weaving more into that as we
Yeah.
also go forward into, because that was like maybe chapter 1, but we're actually in Missoula, right? Or well, we're outside of Missoula. We are in Montana, and are getting chances to go into Missoula and revisit these places that we just talked about, and that we haven't been to in like over 25 years. So
Yeah.
it's been really a powerful visit. And yeah, we don't live together. So this has been an interesting time of stirring up much, and just really thankful for everyone requesting this, and
Yeah.
does a lot for our lives, and hopefully there'll be some benefit or stirring, or just laughter or jaw dropping, or like, what can we all learn from this? So
Yeah.
yeah, I look forward to sharing more. And I definitely had my moment where the story overcame me in my body. Wasn't too much, but I realized that there's more there that I have passed over and didn't realize. It's the last place I would look. So what a profound moment to help heal. And that moment was when the feeling of when our friend didn't make it on the train. I just had that view of him again. And by Joel sharing how he was going to stay on the train or maybe jump off, and that really got to my heart. So I'll be doing some work with that.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Alan, I appreciate your comments. You're in a spiritual warrior study group. Yeah, it's glad for everybody, whatever you resonate with. And there is so much to unlock and discover in this world. And Shimon, thanks for being here. You were one of the people that came and learned the magical passes, and I look forward to doing that again. I'm still in Seattle. I'm just visiting Montana, so I'll be letting you know, and hopefully we can get into the parks, and instead of renting spaces this time, I think we'll just do it outdoors, rain or shine. And yeah, so I'm teaching some people in Russia and Ukraine the movements online, because they are very into Carlos Castaneda books. And so that's been really amazing, and made some really profound connections. It's been hard lately. Our translator is busy trying to save his business because he's Russian. The international community is not allowing his business to continue,
because it's an American.
So he's trying
business.
to switch into a different country, and I guess United Arab Emirates is going to allow it, and he's going to be able to do that. So everyone's it's an intense time. Lots of changes are happening, and but it's been really wonderful to connect with all of you. And I think we'll wrap it up and let you know. We'll hopefully do this monthly, but every time we say that, then ends up being every 2 months. So maybe we'll do it every week, and so that it can happen every month. And yeah, so cool. Appreciate everybody. Look forward to next time, and feel free to mention this to anybody that might be interested. And we'll be putting this on YouTube as long as the recording worked out, and then so we can watch it and rehash this stuff, and go from there. So, all right. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.